Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Zainab Avni. I'm an alignment coach and energy healer. And this podcast, Healing Conversations, is all about bringing to our attention natural ways of healing anything that is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Right. Without further ado, let me introduce to you our today's guest, and we have Marika Murray. Marika, it is wonderful to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, it's so great to be here now. Thanks for having me.
So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But before we start, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I've spent my entire life in a state of unwell, and I from childhood. And as my life progressed and the symptoms progressed, it sort of seemed like society was just sort of set up for me to stay sick. Everyone, I think like doctors and trusted adults would say, everyone feels tired, everyone has a stiff neck sometimes. And so my like vague chronic symptoms just kind of get swept under the rug into this is normal. All teenagers are tired. And sort of as each sort of segment of life progressed from college into adulthood, you start observing and this is not normal. And so really for me, my whole journey has been about discovering and rediscovering myself and connecting with my intuition and really going back to that childhood feeling and trusting that little girl and knowing that she did know something was wrong with her, but nobody else understood. And so it's been a pretty wild journey, part investigator, part patient, and it's kind of all morphed together into this beautiful journey, right? And you don't know it's beautiful until you kind of get through it a little. And that's where we are now, kind of through it, but still in it.
Yeah. And I think that's really important to mention, of course, that yes, you are still in the journey, but a lot wiser than you were before, with also more confidence to actually speak up and, and actually bring more attention and awareness to all of this situation with you and of course with others.
Exactly. And once I understood my diagnosis, which we can get into, and how um, it's the world around me that was making me sick, and I wasn't understanding that. And so sharing that with other people and letting them know, hey, you might have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia too, but that's just kind of a random word that doesn't mean much. And and so now I understand that my fibromyalgia feelings are something that can be dealt with and it's treatable and I'm improving every day and it's such a miracle and I don't want other people to be given that diagnosis and now and just not know what else to do because there is hope when you're able to get outside of some of the traditional medical system stuff that we're used to.
But this is so important that that we're already getting there. Um, I guess there's a couple of things that you're saying that are really important to unpack. The first thing is this part about I know that I'm feeling something, and how do I get people to actually believe me when maybe my symptoms are not visible,
Mhm.
right? And then the other thing is that a little bit later down the line, that says actually there's something that you can do about it. It's not what the doctors say that it's incurable or that there's no solutions and that you will always have it. But maybe we'll get there in a bit. But maybe we can start with really that part of, like you said, right? The little you that knew that something was not right, having people, not believing you, not really allowing you to, I guess the courtesy of the journey, right? And it's just you by yourself. So maybe tell us a little bit more about that. And also, I'm curious to know what you mean when you say my environment is the thing that got me sick.
Yeah, so well, I guess we'll start with the first thing and I'll maybe kind of mush it all in together. So yeah, I think as a child, we're so in tune with our body. And if our caregivers and, trusted adults in our life aren't in tune with their own body, they're going to teach you perhaps maybe how to get away from that and not how to hone those skills. And so that was sort of something that I've been reflecting on as I've gotten older, because well, you start to question things, and it couples, and then trauma kind of produces itself. And I'm like, I kept getting sicker almost because I wasn't being supported and believed. And that kind of was impacting my nervous system. And it's all connected. And that I think is the biggest thing that I didn't understand, really until quite just a few years ago. And I was even going, I mean, I went to every doctor, I went to every specialist, I've tried every herb, every tincture, every product I could buy because I was so just determined to not feel like duty every day. And and it kind of got to the point where it was like just rallying to get out of bed was becoming a challenge. And I was in my early 30s when it just really kind of like got to that point. And and when you've been living life so unwell for so long, you kind of forget how heavy the backpack is you've been carrying.
Mm.
And you keep trudging along, and symptoms keep getting added, and you really don't, after so many decades, you forget what normal is. And so that's been like this beautiful thing that I've been experiencing once I've started getting a little bit better. I was able to recognize how unwell I was. I was so stuck in survival mode and rallying and just that fight, fight, fight. Like, I've got to get out of bed. I've got to pay the bills so I can buy the next tincture that I need. And it just, kept going. And so that really, it weighs heavily on you when you don't have outside support and you're your own caregiver and you're the patient and you're quite literally the doctor too, because no one else is helping much. So it's a big burden, and society's just not set up to really support people who are dealing with all of these chronic things. And but I think it's shifting. I think there's a huge shift happening right now, and a lot of us feel it, even if you aren't living in chronic pain. I'm definitely noticing some of the people around me nodding a little more when I talk instead of giving me the weird, like, you might have four heads. Maybe we got to get you a doctor. So I think people really are starting to see there's something else there. And then I guess I can sort of shift into the environment a little bit, where that was when I found a functional medicine doctor, and I filled out all the forms. I'm like, every question they asked, pages and pages, and it was all this random vague stuff like, do your ears ever feel plugged? And mine have been plugged since I was 8. And so I'm 39 now. So 30 years of my ears being plugged. I don't know what it feels like for them to pop, but I can envision it very clearly. And so seeing this doctor and having him ask these questions that are these little things to everyone else, but they have been such big hurdles in my life, like hearing and having the weird, like, echoey vertigo when you're just trying to be in a meeting and have a conversation. All of these little symptoms like really start piling up when you're getting into 50, 60 symptoms a day, decade after decade. And you're like, plugged ears is like the least of my problems, but it's something that impacts you so much all the time. And so anyway, so this doctor just really opened my eyes that so much else could be impacting me and causing the symptoms to flare. And so when he gave me, I did some blood work and we got some other tests done that aren't commonly run in Western medicine. So this is why all my labs were always coming back normal when I went to my regular GP, or any specialist, really. I was normal. So there wasn't anything else to be done. This guy runs some other tests and I'm off the charts. And he's like, yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, but there's hope. And it just getting that information after decades of being told there's nothing that can be done. Uh, there are no words. It is so validating. I mean, I just sat there quietly crying and letting the doctor, do his thing. And I'm just like, 35 years, all this money, all this time and energy, and He just said I had chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and it's commonly referred to as an acronym of CIRS. I had never heard of this before. It had never been presented to me before. And the whole crux of this illness is air quality. And so when it comes down to it, and I start thinking, gosh, well, little Marika didn't want to go to elementary school. Could there have been mold or not even water damage, some other kinds of little bacteria and, just these invisible little things that I'm just such a sensitive person. It impacted me and other people, their bodies can process toxins.
Mm.
And so they're just able to live normally and have no idea. And so then I start piecing it together. I'm like, well, I was really sick in middle school. I was at any school, really, unfortunately. Like I was quite allergic to school. Um, and of course, I love learning now. Like all I want to do is soak it in. So, and like it was something about that environment. And then I think about, the gross boyfriends and their dirty bathrooms and all of the dorm rooms. I mean, I was so sick in college and I remember going back like a decade later, my cousin went to the same school and I went to go into her dorm room and it was just like it hit me. And at the time, of course, I had no idea. And I was so unwell that going into that building didn't like cause a flare that was recognizable to me at that time. But it's really interesting, like when I think back to all these spaces now, like, well, gosh, that's a really good reason why I would have been so unwell and needed all these surgeries in college. And it kind of just has been downhill from there. So long-winded, yeah. So environment really can impact us, especially if we're already in a sensitive body.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing that I'm still actually kind of still holding, in my mind really is that thing of having to go through all of this by yourself with no one to believe you, no one to support you. And and really, I guess it's a very it's a very stuck feeling, right? Because you know how you feel and you can't convince anyone. And then it's like, is it just in my head? And it's like, what am I, how can I move forward? Because you have to bring in this not just resilience, but this incredible power to say, actually, I am going to do something about it. Even if you don't believe me, I can't let it go. And so what you described earlier, of course, about your nervous system and really being in that stress all the time, really, I can understand it so clearly how that plus all the toxins and things that come from your environment, how challenging this must have been for you.
Yeah, I can't even, begin to explain the isolation and what that does on its own.
Mm,
But then when I learned that these toxins in the air are causing inflammation in my brain and are exacerbating my depression. Mm, I'm learning rage and anger is a really big trigger when I'm in these unhealthy environments.
mm,
And like quite literally, I go insane and I'm like possessed, not only physically feeling so unwell, but mentally to the point where like there were so many times where I really should have had someone um, helping me. And then I'm trying to save myself, but not really in a good mindset to even do it. And just the stress of it all. So yeah, so as I'm healing and kind of going through these different stages and um, am able to just feel more. I mean, I was so numb and so disassociated. Um, it's just such a miracle how I'm coming back together.
mhm.
Uh, I feel like I'm defying everything that every doctor has ever said to me. And it's so beautiful and it's such a lovely FU to the world. And like, I know I'm not crazy. I know there was something really seriously wrong with me. And I know there's something really seriously wrong with millions of other people. This illness is estimated genetically to impact 1 in 4 people. which is just 25% of the population is a gigantic number, however you want to cut it. And so this could be the reason why people have long Lyme and can't get rid of their chronic Lyme symptoms, because their body is just has a little glitch that needs some extra care. I can't tell you how many people I've interacted with who have said, "Oh, I know someone who has fibromyalgia. I know someone who has these like random things." And I'm just like, oh, teach them, tell them this. And if it resonates, they're going to run with it. People just need the trailhead. We just need to know where the trail starts.
Mm.
Because right now, this illness, like there really isn't a trail, and the path isn't, it's lit once you find it, but no one knows how to find it. And when we're talking to these doctors who don't know, they can't, direct us to go here or there. And so now, the patient has to get out their flashlight and, all their tools. And it's like, we're sometimes just too sick to do that. And so the more people that we can um, share this information with and who can help others, it's invaluable to the world. And I think now is really, now's the time. Everyone's got the little bug from the food getting healthier. Um, yeah, so it's just exciting that it's sort of all like bubbling at the surface now, like just in time for me to feel well enough to.
Mhm. But the thing is also is that more and more people are getting sick these days.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think kind of going back to what you said that there's more awareness, I think maybe there is more awareness because more people are complaining about
yeah.
things. I mean, I
Hmm.
think for me, nearly maybe 50% of my clients probably have told me that they're suffering from chronic fatigue, for example. Um, and 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 that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of people that suffering from the same thing, and the doctors don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I know that with my methods, which of course you're also using, we can help people with chronic fatigue. But when you isolate that, from all the other symptoms that they're experiencing, then you can make a dent in that. But otherwise, there's this avalanche of other symptoms and stuff. It's like, it takes longer than maybe otherwise. But
Yeah.
really,
And I think that's kind of part of the other big issue that I've personally experienced is when you've been sick for 3 decades, you're not going to get better overnight, no matter how dedicated you are to healing. And I promise I am very dedicated to healing. It's taking years. I got my diagnosis November 5th, 2022, and it's August 2025 now. And every single day I has been getting better and focused on this healing. And two, when you don't have the time, right? We've got our work stress, family. I mean, who knows? Traffic, forget it. So it's like you can never get ahead of it. And I think that's kind of what I mean too when I say society's not set up for this healing. They just want to keep you, distracted, watch another show, and just keep going on the loop, get another pill. It's fine, just keep doing it. And once you step off of that and you're kind of able to like observe everyone else like going around and around, it's a very different perspective. And when you get off and you start to feel a little bit better and then a little bit better, you're like, okay, I got to just keep doing what I'm doing. But that isolates me even more from friends, family, doctors, society, because they all know this. And I'm over here trying other things. And the language like, I may as well, be speaking another language. They're not understanding me. And I'm like, I've already tried that. I can't do that again. Come join me over here. But most people aren't there. They're not ready for that transition. And I think too, you don't, it's very difficult to understand the chronic pain I've been in when you haven't been living through it. And that's again something that I didn't know until I started to feel better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like even my migraines are different now. Like I experience pain so much differently as the inflammation is receding from my body. And so for someone who's just never been that clogged with inflammation, they're just I can't imagine. It's hard to explain it without sounding a little loony.
But I guess really, I think what is coming across to me really kind of clearly is that really that now that you know what is going on, you can really find all the conviction to really stand behind it and understand things. Whereas before, when there's no diagnosis, or at least one that is that is actually helpful, or I guess even right, like you say, right, fibromyalgia is not a very helpful diagnosis necessarily. But now that you understand a little bit more, you can really find the conviction to stand behind it and start educating other people. And I'm sure that anyone listening to this podcast, they will think of other people that they know, with this, some of the symptoms that you already mentioned. And now they have, like you say, that trail, they have an avenue to go and explore, which is massive and so important.
I mean, it's life changing. If someone had, like looking back, I'm like, I don't even think anyone even mentioned mold as a possible option for me because you know, I struggle. No, it could, yeah, and then and you're like, I don't think I had mold in my home. I don't think. And then I recently just experienced water, a really heavy rainstorm, just a fluky water coming through, and there was no damage. It was just wet sheetrock for a couple days. I had to sleep outside. It was giving me insomnia. I was noticing my crazy brain, and it was just, it's so little and it was so temporary, but I'm like, holy cow. And I was in a very large open home, and the fact that it was impacting me with all the air purifiers running, I just was so blown away. And so when I'm as I normally am, in a much smaller space, I can't even imagine how much more that would impact me.
Yeah.
um, and that was just a little water on sheetrock for a couple days, and it dried and it was no big deal. It impacted my life drastically. And I'm still out of work and really just focused in the healing. So I can't even imagine if I then had to deal with commitments and, honoring deadlines, and it would have crushed me.
Mm.
And and that was just a little blip uh, in my radar. So yeah, it's giving me really interesting perspective too. Um, and working with some other people and meeting people who have had this illness. And now I've been able to see them, maybe, of course, not in their best light, but when they're having a flare of this illness, and you really like, you're not well mentally and emotionally sometimes. And it's not your fault. And that's what's very difficult to understand. And so seeing someone else go through that from an outside perspective, it's kind of scary. And I do have a new appreciation why people probably thought I needed to be medicated or institutionalized sometimes. This really it affects you in just a way that is so frightening when you don't really fully understand. And it's got me now thinking that a lot of domestic violence might be connected to mold and some of these other anger and rage situations that people are in, exacerbated by a little alcohol. Like it's all just causing inflammation in your body. And then, of course, we all will have a different reaction, but inflammation makes us do crazy things.
Mm.
And it's just really, really interesting. And yeah, so I just want everyone to have that awareness so it can just, be an option for someone they
Exactly.
know.
Exactly. I mean, it's just knowing about something that you didn't know before, and now it can, then it takes its life on its own, right? We don't say anything. We just say, hey, maybe.
Maybe, right? And I'm not saying everyone who has fibromyalgia has this condition, but it's worth looking into. And I think what was really discouraging in the beginning was I obviously transitioned from a Western medicine doctor to a functional medicine doctor. And once I got the diagnosis, I felt compelled to share with some of my earlier doctors, hey, if you have other patients with similar symptoms as mine, maybe you'd like to let
How
them
did
know.
that go?
Oh, it didn't go well at all. No, not at all. It doesn't stop me, but the doctor wished me good luck. And I just like, huh, okay, yes, thank you.
No, no,
But
no,
so that
no.
really, got me going even more like, well, you became a doctor because you wanted to help people and you saw what I was going through. I mean, I was in that waiting room hysterical. I mean, everyone that worked there, I'm sure knew who I was, and no one really knew what to do with me. And it was just getting worse and worse. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm so mentally like I was a mess and I wasn't getting better. I think because I was in a situation where I was recurring into buildings that were making me sick. So I was never going to get better if I had kept going at that pace. Um, and and you would think the doctor would want to know that.
Well, what I know about doctors now, and I'm not dissing any, Western medicine and all the good things that they do, but I do
Of
understand
course,
a lot
yeah.
about doctors that, yes, I mean, they're very scared about their reputation and about, the research or what they believe in or what they know. And it will take a lot more than that for them to actually show interest or show that they're willing to talk about it. But yeah, that's another story. But I want to ask about this, the doctor that you did meet and that identified or diagnosed this, the chronic toxins and inflammation.
Mhm.
So what was after the blood works and the diagnosis and everything, what was the first step into the beginning of this recovery or the new age?
Yeah, the new lifestyle. So really, and I think that's also the big thing. We're so conditioned to go to the doctor and get a pill and carry on. And so this is not that. This is a lifestyle. This is a screeching brakes, halting stop when we need to pivot very aggressively with lifestyle changes. And so so it's called the Shoemaker Protocol, is what I'm following. And it's a 12-step protocol to really just get your body back into balance from being hijacked by all of these crazy toxins and things and inflammation. And the first step is getting out of exposure. And for many people, that's very difficult. A lot of people, their home is their exposure. And so I think it's all important to know too, for me, I just was sick from such a young age. I don't remember if I had a triggering event. The majority of people I've interacted with in support groups and hearing from doctors and things, they had a specific event. So someone was well, then maybe moved into a moldy home, got really sick, and they were able to kind of investigate I got sick when I moved here. And so they have somewhere to go off of. I didn't have that. So they'll go off of that, and it was like we'll try to go through what could be causing your exposure and the trigger. And I know I've had a reaction just getting my hair cut. So like it can happen anywhere. And so it takes time to figure out what is causing your exposure. So a lot of people with this illness, again, now remember, no one believes you. No one's rallying around to help you deal with this. So you're trying to figure it out on your own. Some people will sleep in their car to see if the home is making them sick, or they might sleep in a hammock or a tent. So a lot of people end up kind of doing things that seem like really crazy and bizarre to an average person, where I'm like, oh yeah, like you have like a little tent go bag because you just never know, like one something you're gonna have to like evacuate quickly because it happens very quickly. Within hours, I will be a different person. cognitively. Um, and then too, when it's happening, you're unwell. You don't necessarily know that. Well, yeah, so it's a learning experience. But so step one of the Shoemaker protocol is get out of exposure, and then step two is adding in some binders, which could be like charcoal or there's some pharmaceutical level, and they kind of attract different things. So I've actually been using the muscle testing to see which one I should take at what time. Because what with this illness too, there's a lot of co-infections. I've been dealing with a lot of parasites, bacteria, and of course with mold, then there's going to be fungal stuff. Um, a lot of people also have MARCoNS, which is an acronym for a nasty staph infection. And these are just things that a lot of people might have, and Western medicine isn't testing you for it. And so I had a chronic sinus issues my whole life. Of course, now we know it's connected to fungal stuff and the inflammation and everything. But I mean, it was antibiotics, surgeries, just constant interventions that were not making me better on the back end. And so yeah, so when I found this little Shoemaker protocol, and you're just learning like, oh, you should distill your water and don't wear plastic clothes and just random little things that you don't really think about. But these are adding toxins into my body, adding to my load, causing me to be sicker. So once you get into this Shoemaker protocol, you really just start looking at the world differently. And I kind of have been explaining it like, you have your nice dinner table all set up, and we're flipping tables now. We are breaking glass. Like, it is just not business as usual anymore. And once you start doing that, I mean, the healing just keeps happening. And then it's almost like you kind of become addicted to healing in a good way, right? But then you want to help other people, and may not be ready to be helped. And so I
Yeah.
think the hardest part of the journey is like, okay, like I can only help myself, and hopefully people will just see the change and ask questions. But yeah, like when you first kind of start realizing all of this, all you want to do is just like shout it from the mountains and scream it from a megaphone and just like, everyone, you must, change your life and you'll heal. But it's obviously not that easy.
Well, that was because when I was doing my training, I first heard about the mind body connection, and I was like, and at that time, I guess it was eight something years ago. And I was the same thing. I was like, the mind body connection, the mind body connect. You have to,
No.
But I remember going onto this Facebook group, and these two ladies. I mean, I just said, "Hey, let's heal." Mind body connection. I was kind of. I always say I was kind of, but they got so angry, and they was like, it took me forever to convince my parents, not my parents, my family, and my doctors that I'm sick, and now you're telling me that I can just heal. And I mean, these two, they were so angry, and I understood then how challenging it is for people to, like what you're saying, right? They're not ready because they still haven't got over this idea that actually, first of all, they really were not lying. There was really something basically wrong with them. There's a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. But really, the thing is that if I spend all these years trying to heal and no one could find a solution, what would that say about me if all of a sudden some random something or other is making it all better? Is it my fault, right? It's so complicated and so complex, and so there's so many attachments to this idea. So I definitely understand that journey of meeting people where they're at, because
Yeah.
otherwise
Well,
they
and there's so many well-intending people who are concerned I'm being scammed.
no.
And I understand, of course, there's a lot of scammy people out there. There's a lot of really bad medical doctors out there too. I
Mm.
mean, you have to go into anything with a little hesitation, and of course, referrals are wonderful. But yeah, when you are navigating this and you don't really have anyone with that like under shred of understanding for this, I just sort of keep like Western medicine is just like this narrow road, and all the science has to fit into that narrow road. But there's so much science that doesn't, and so they just ignore that. It doesn't make it less science. And so I think it's just about educating and also understanding where the money is going, right? I mean, tale as old as time, follow the money. And and so I understand that's where people are like, oh, you're being scammed, you're not in the comfort of the system. And I'm like, no, I am in this roomy, beautiful space, and there is so much more comfort out of the system.
Yeah. But I
But
guess,
you have to be open to it.
it's also, the Western medicine didn't diagnose you properly or correctly, but also a lot of other things, right? It's like it feels like what a beautiful fluke that you met this functional doctor that was able to, that he knew about it, right? That's a
Yeah. There's only a handful of doctors that are certified in CIRS to like go through the protocol with you. I
mm,
mean, a handful in the country. So it's growing though. I
yeah. Well,
just,
that's what we're doing here, right? We're bringing
yeah.
awareness.
And once, and then too, like someone like me, once I understood like how connected everything is, I'm trying to explain it like a Venn diagram because we've all seen this, the connecting like little overlapping circles. And so it's like your mind, your body, what else? We've got emotions, our spiritual, and I had all these Venn diagrams sort of like, or like very loosely connected, like just scattered. And I want all my circles to be nice and lined up and organized. And so through this healing process, I learned there's another circle that I had that I wasn't tending to, and that's my energetic circle.
Mhm.
And the body code, the emotion code, that whole world, like my puzzle was like being put together, and this was like that last piece that like made everything like so much clearer. And and once I started, I mean, my whole life changed once I started doing that. um,
Mhm.
Treating myself as as an energy body. So not only was I healing physically and emotionally and spiritually, I was healing energetically. And that just felt like the root that no like it was like the secret that Western medicine like wanted you to forget. Because if you're doing all that, you certainly don't need the pills. So
Mm. And
that was kind of my
uh,
little epiphany.
so tell me, I mean, so now non for profit, right? That's the next stage where you find
Yes.
yourself. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I felt so once I found the doctor who put me into the support group, and I started learning there's all these people here and hearing their stories, and it just when you don't feel alone, it and you have a name for what's been going on in your body, and you're able to really start like understanding, 'cause, we all like kind of have an idea of the insides of our body, but like I really didn't understand. And this is stuff I obviously wish they were teaching in school. And so this is the kind of stuff that really prompted me to say, hey, 1 in 4 people could have this genetic susceptibility to air. Like that's frightening and huge. And I'm just like, well, what's being done? And I'm like asking the leader of the support group and these doctors, and they're kind of like, oh, like, well, we're all just doing the best we can, and everyone's just figuring it out. I'm like, okay, yeah, we need a nonprofit. I Insurance doesn't cover anything with this illness. It's all out of pocket. It's all on the burden of the patient. And of course, if there's, a support or a caregiver, but really, it goes just back to the burden's on the patient, and the patient's too sick to work. they might be living in a tent and, needing to vacate their home. I mean, they are hemorrhaging money and they can barely like take care of themselves. So hopefully, and then you add in kids and pets and just other things in life. I mean, it is quite unmanageable some days, and it's very daunting. And to not have a safety net of insurance and the understanding of friends and family is just catastrophic. And I believe a lot of people are committing suicide unnecessarily through the lack of help, just generally just feeling unwell, whatever the circumstances are. And so just knowing what I went through, there is just a huge gap here. And, I had some time. So as I was, just sick and trying to get myself well, I also have been, how am I going to help other people who come after me? And so I've been slowly, painfully working and trying to get this nonprofit going. You know, there'd be months when I didn't work on it at all because, right, healing had to take priority. And then I'd be feeling well and I'd work on it. And, so it's kind of been this labor of love for many years now. Really, once I got the diagnosis and started like understanding like the the seriousness of this and the complete lack of information out there. I'm like, there's no website I can direct my family to say, hey, look, here's the deal, and look at all the people fighting to help me. And so I'm like, okay, I want to be that person for someone else. Um, and unfortunately, too, I'm just in such the healing mode, and all the people that I know right now are healing. So it's hard to find people to even participate or to donate or to be a board member. But that's part of the learning curve and part of the journey. And so it's just really exciting to share this and, get more people involved and excited about it and open to helping other people for such a noble cause that's not prominent yet, but deserves to be.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like really it's the symptoms that you are describing. It really does feel from, conversations that I've been having that these symptoms are on the rise. And yes, they go to the doctors and the doctors don't know what it is. And then maybe they give this kind of fibromyalgia, diagnosis, and that doesn't mean anything and it doesn't help anything or anyone. And so to have this kind of, hey, just maybe this in the background is so helpful. And
Mm.
so, really amazing that you are doing this and that you are starting to be this person or this resource that people are coming to and finding more information about.
Right? Because
Um,
people not only do they need help financially, they don't know what to do.
mm,
And so having a page and it's like, just come here and see what resonates. And so yeah, I just wanted to have like a hub, a little landing spot for people to go and to just poke around and to get some ideas of what could be causing them or their loved one these mystery symptoms, because it may be really simple. And I know in America we're working on our food and getting some of the toxins out of them. But this is, our this is what's making us sick. And as we're starting to learn, and when we change our food, and it's just amazing what starts happening and how our body is able to heal so naturally. And I just think, right, like Mother Nature has everything available to us. We just need to know how to use it and um,
yeah.
yeah, and where to go to get the information.
Yeah. So this shoemaker situation is quite an interesting name. I'm curious where that come from, but I'm wondering, would people with other kind of inflammation benefit from going through this process, like maybe arthritis or so on?
Yeah, so I 100%, I think it's kind of all connected. And I'm not a doctor. So of course you have to do your own research and trust your intuition. But we've got a lot of autoimmune stuff in my family. from like blood clots to strokes to the like arthritis stuff. And then, of course, my things. I think it's all connected. And so that's another part of the reason why I want more people to be aware of this because, well, it's genetic. And so it could be manifesting in my relatives in different ways.
Hmm.
And so I do think the crux, right? The root of all of this, it comes down to inflammation for the arthritis, for my thing. And so really chronic inflammatory response syndrome, it's your body is in a chronic state of inflammation. And it's sort of like if you think about like your fuse box, when you know that one is out of line, you know it we've got to like crank it back into place. And so I think that's, what's happening in our body. And so like we're spiraling with all this inflammation and we've got to like shift our body back. But we're not going to do that when we keep putting in all the bad stuff causing the inflammation. And so like that's where we've got to change our lifestyle. And that's hard for a lot of people. And I'm realizing too, it's been very difficult for me and I want to change and I want to do all these things. But that's it's harder. It's easier to kind of keep doing things as you're doing it.
No,
And
absolutely.
I feel like it's hard work.
But like you say, it's not in silo, right? It's not just the one thing that got you sick. It's this and that and that and that. And actually now to and you say, okay, so I'm going to live in my tent, but you don't realize that, there's a mole, in the pipe in the garden where you're actually,
Right.
staying. And it's like, okay, so it's not working. And so this part of, investigating and exploring what is going on is another part of that journey, right? Because it's not just black and white, yes or no, all of that. It's
Yes, it's very, I'm like, I'm a little Aaron Brockovich, you're like taking a little of this, a little of that, like, okay, like this just isn't making sense. Like there's patterns here. And when you're able to pull out and like observe it, it makes complete sense. And Dr. Shoemaker, he's not practicing anymore. I think he's like in his 80s now. But he continued to uh, make himself ill to help figure out how to make it better.
oh,
Um,
I think did I?
he has an interesting story. I don't know all of the nuances of it, but I know he's had a lot of friction with the medical establishment.
I think is he the guy that like you said, he makes himself sick so that he can make himself better, so he can prove that the methods work and the illness is actually real.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the support group, like the hundreds of patients that I've interacted with, we all think he deserves some kind of Nobel Prize of some
I
sort.
have heard of him. Ta-da! See?
Yeah, so I think he's out of like the DC, Maryland area in this United States, and so that's the doctor that I went to was kind of like his one of the people working that worked with him, and but it's just interesting, right? All these doctors, all these different things, and there's so many people out there who are writing books and doing podcasts. Like the information is there. It's just you gotta dig through and like find it.
And it's so hard. Like people say to me, "Oh, just go and do some research." I'm like, I don't want to do research. It's gonna,
Who do I trust? Where do I start?
it's just too much. It's too much. But Marika, we coming kind of to the end of our conversation. So I want to first of all give you that opportunity to invite people to, I don't know, donate or find more or tell us how does that work? Where to find you? How what would you like people to do when they hear about your story and have that idea in their mind that maybe they know someone who is going through pretty much the same thing?
I hope yeah that they find peace and just take a deep breath first, and then go to undiagnosedsociety.org. And that is my nonprofit, Undiagnosed Society. And hopefully, there you'll be able to find some resources or get a little more information. And then you're just going to go like the internet, you'll you just start doing things and one thing leads you to the next. And when you look back on your journey, and I'm like, wow, I read that book and that connected me to that doctor. And I just can like so clearly see like the trail of breadcrumbs that led to healing.
Mhm.
But when, of course, when you're in it, it's hard to see the forest through the trees. So we're at Undiagnosed Society trying so hard to get a good foundation to help other people with this. And we're small, but we're mighty. And
Awesome.
there's a contact form on there. So if anyone has any questions or wants to connect with me, I can be reached through there.
Yes, yes. And of course, all of your information is going to be in the show notes. So wherever people see this or hear this podcast, there will be your information will be there too. So Marika, one message, one thing, if you think if people just take this one message from this podcast, what would that be?
Trust people who say they don't feel well. Even if they look, even if they don't, like I feel very sick right now, as I shared with you earlier before we got started. Um, I think, but you don't look sick is the sentence I'm very, very tired of hearing. And so if anyone takes anything from this, listen to the words. We learn from a very young age not to judge a book by its cover, and we need to remember that when people say they're sick.
Mm. And I guess the message also is the same message that goes to the people themselves who are not feeling well, and to really say, you know,
Trust yourself.
exactly. Even if the people around you don't know, don't believe you, don't know how to deal with you, and your symptoms, complain complains. If you feel it, it's true. And now, you know, go and talk to Marika
Yeah.
and have some conversation that can, I'm sure there would be something to take from any conversation, right? And
Yeah, it's finding the person or the podcast or that Instagram feed that just for me it's really like it'll speak to you on and you're gonna know and you're gonna want to pursue and dig further into something that you may not have even questioned or thought about before.
mm,
So just be, I think the other takeaway is to just be open, and as we learned in our the body code sessions, anything can cause anything. And boy, is it true. And you really just like, until you experience it, like I can say it over and over again, but until you like actually understand it for yourself, it doesn't mean anything.
yeah, I think it's very important message. That thing of anything can cause everything or anything, and be curious, and don't judge, right?
Question everything. I mean, and just because you know a doctor said this, keep doing your own research. See what someone else says about that, and just keep approaching things from different angles. And because, right, everyone has their own bias, their own perspective, and you're the only one that knows how you feel.
Yeah, very important message. Marika, thank you so much for being here with us today, and thank you for sharing all of this, your story and your wisdom, and really the journey that you are on at the moment. I really appreciate you being here, and of course, anyone listening or watching, please do share this podcast with anyone you know, because there is important information here to be shared, and you can be, contributing to someone feeling better or finding their path. So please
Yeah.
do share. Thank you so much, Marika, for being here
Thank
with us
you.
today.
Bye.
Thank you.